Good morning, y'all.
Good morning. How is everybody?
Mm,
Another day in paradise.
Yep.
a
Sure
yellow
is.
hazed paradise of pollen and spring.
We have two stories today,
Okay.
and the first one is a kind of a follow up to last week. Remember last week we talked about Ash Wednesday? What's Ash Wednesday? Yeah, what are all this? What's our dirty faces? What's that all about? And then
Yeah.
this week we talk about a season. It's actually a season in the church,
hmm
and it lasts for 40 days, 40 nights, and it's called Lent. Lent. Lent.
Not
So
like
what?
prior Lent, but like.
No, not that kind of Lent.
Mhm.
What is Lent about?
Yeah, it's a purple season.
Purple?
Had to pull out my purple shoes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Purple. Is it celebratory? Is it a trumpet time?
nah, Jason tones it down. It gets quieter.
Not like
It's a somber season.
Yeah.
or violin or
Very
even a
reflective.
whisper season.
Yeah.
Season we use our inside voices.
Yeah, we don't even have an opening hymn
No.
for Lent. We only have two hymns, so we're cutting some music down. We come in during confession and it's very quiet when we
Yeah.
come in.
We walk. Last week, Pastor Rebecca said our confession aloud as we walked, and so all you could hear wasn't music but footsteps as we and the voices as we said our confession, and we walked to the chancel and started quietly. Yeah.
I think of it as it's very very thoughtful season. It's a time for thinking and reflecting and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And we have some interesting stories. Last Sunday, we heard about how Jesus was tempted in the wilderness. Pastor Eric preached on that. This Sunday, it's a very thought-filled story. A man named Nicodemus goes to find Jesus and talk to Jesus and ask him questions. And it's interesting because Nicodemus doesn't come and see Jesus during the daytime. He comes out in the middle of the night. So we don't know if it's just he wasn't trying to be seen or if he just couldn't sleep or a little bit of both, but he has
I love that part about the Nicodemus story, that he comes at night. I love that is he afraid or is he ashamed or is he
couldn't sleep. We don't know.
Yeah, I just love that he comes. I love that detail. I think that's very important.
Lent 3. Next.
Lent 3. Breaking news. Breaking news here. We can announce it here. Breaking news. Well, if we had a chyron, we could do it. Maybe we can add one later.
Yeah.
Breaking news. Lent 3, the third Sunday of Lent, which is March 12th. We have a special guest preacher. Who's it going to be? Do we know? It's Daniel Paul Cross.
Daniel Paul Crofts.
He is going to preach for us. So tell us, have you started thinking about this, Daniel? What is the what's the reading for that day?
The reading's a long one. It's the Syrophoenician woman.
Then Lent 4 is the story of a man born blind. And then Jesus gives the man his sight. And then Lent 5, Pastor Eric.
So Lent 5, I'm going to preach that one. And that one is, the Old Testament reading from Ezekiel is one of my favorites. It's the dry bones passage. I love that passage because it sets your imagination going. It's about dry bones that sort of rise up and become something living again. And with the breath of God and the presence of the Spirit, it makes something old and dead new again. And then similarly, the gospel that day is about a man named Lazarus. And Lazarus died. And he was in the grave. And Jesus says, unbind him and come out. And he comes out alive. Lent, what do we do during Lent? Lent's a time for what? What do we do at Lent?
People will take on a habit. Either they'll give something up or they'll add something to their day. that
Yes.
hopefully, I think hopefully it's one of those things that as you take it on through Lent, you learn something new or it transforms you a little bit.
Yes.
Change that maybe that change goes beyond Lent. It's not just let me see if I can do it for 40 days, but maybe that over 40 days, that thing that you give up or take on becomes a habit that you can build into beyond Lent.
All right, we have another story.
Wow.
We have
Okay.
another story today. This story is, speaking of sad, it's a little sad, and it's one that it's upsetting, and we're not going to tell. It's a cliffhanger. We're not going to tell how it ends. I think the boys and girls might know, but we're going to talk about it. So, from the New Testament, our story today is called "The Day Jesus Died." Okay, I'm going to read this from our Spark Bible. Okay, and see. We'll talk about it. It was a very sad day when Jesus died. The soldiers who had arrested Jesus teased him for pretending to be a king. They took his clothes and put a king's purple cloak on him. They made a crown of vines with sharp thorns and put it on Jesus's head. Ouch. And boys and girls, they may be able to, if you go into the parish hall, you'll see a cross with the purple shroud, cloak, and the crown of thorns. The soldiers made Jesus carry a heavy wooden cross. The cross was too heavy for him. Jesus fell and skinned his knees, and the cross tumbled to the ground. A man in the crowd carried the cross the rest of the way. The soldiers nailed Jesus' hands and feet to the cross. They raised Jesus' cross up on a hill between two other men. The other men were thieves, and they were being crucified too. One of the men was angry with Jesus. If you are a powerful king, can't you save yourself? Why don't you save us too? The man spat at Jesus. But the other thief believed in Jesus. He shouted back, "Don't you know who this is? This is God's son. He hasn't done anything wrong. We are being punished for our mistakes, but Jesus shouldn't be here." The man turned to Jesus and asked, "Will you take me to heaven with you?" Jesus looked at the man and loved him. Jesus told him, "Yes, today we will be in heaven together." After a while, the world grew very dark, as if a terrible thunderstorm was coming. It was as if all of creation was crying because Jesus was about to die. Jesus was feeling all alone and prayed to see if God was still there. Of course, God never left Jesus. God was with him the whole time. Jesus looked at the crowd. He was so sad that people didn't believe that he was God's son. He asked God to forgive them for killing him. The soldiers offered him some sour wine, but he didn't want to drink it. He was ready to die. Finally, Jesus had fought for long enough. He said, "God, the work you gave me to do here is finished." He breathed a final, long, slow breath, and then he died. It's a sad story. It can be very upsetting to boys and girls and grown-ups.
It's like the scary part of the movie.
Say that again, PR. I'm sorry.
It's like the scary part of the movie.
It is a scary part of the movie, and it's the part where people maybe get their Kleenexes out because it's sad and upsetting. Now, we're going to let the boys and girls know just a little secret. There is a happy ending, but that's the cliffhanger. We have to find out what happens later, and that's an Easter story. The story I just read is a Good Friday story.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it good? Well, we call it good because we know the rest of the story.
Right.
And then on Easter, we get to find out what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do we think about this? What else do we think about that story? That's a tough story.
Well, it's like a story, and there's elements of like redemption, right? With the people that are hung beside, at least the one, that recognizes who Jesus was.
That's a good point. Yeah. Even in that sad moment, there's some moments where there's some good news.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's some promise. Yeah.
Promise. Yeah, it might be a better word. Yeah, hope.
rough story, but and when we listen to it on Good Friday, we're gonna leave at the cliffhanger, but at least we're not gonna listen to it alone.
That's right. And this Good Friday, we have some actors in the congregation who are going to tell the story.
Ooh.
Very with some storytelling, some life-changing stories.
It'll be really good.
That is coming up on April the 7th. It will be here before we know it.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything else we want to talk about today before we go?
I don't know.
It's been a packed King Street Kids today.
It was a long one, but it's all good. It's all good stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Be well, buddy.
Bye.